What's up, 7th grade? Mr. Agnos here. In this video, I'm going to go over two problems from homework 4-3G. Okay, this is question number 6. It says, Erica is at her house. She gets in her car and drives north 5.5 miles and stops at the store. Then she turns around and drives south 3.3 miles to go to her friend's house. How far is the friend's house from Erica's house? All right, so I'm going to start by drawing a little picture here. Maybe I'll make a big dot where Erica's house is. So let's pretend that this is Erica's house. So I'm just going to say E's house. And the first thing it says in our question is that she drives north 5.5 miles. Okay, well, we can go ahead and represent that as literally driving north 5.5 miles. So that's 5.5, and I'm going to go ahead and use a positive 5.5 to represent this number. All right, so over here I'm gonna write an equation, 5.5, and then it says she stops at the store, then she turns around and drives south 3.3 miles. So the store is right here. So once she gets to the store, she turns around and she drives back south 3.3 miles. 3.3 is more than half of 5.5, so I'll make it like that for her. Now, since I'm moving in the opposite direction here I went north and I used a positive number. Since I'm going south, I'm going to go ahead and use a negative 3.3 to represent this distance because I'm going in the opposite direction. So they want to know, well, so this is the store right here. She goes to the store first, maybe she picks up some snacks, and then she heads back to her friend's house. Her friend's house is right here. So what we're trying to find in this question, I'm just going to say friends, is the distance from the friend's house to Erica's house. We're trying to find this black line right here. What is this distance? Well, the way we can find that is just by adding. We have 5.5 plus the negative 3.3. The 5.5 is positive because we were heading north. The 3.3 is negative because we turned around and we headed back in the exact opposite direction. So really this whole situation up here can be represented by the equation 5.5 plus negative 3.3. And if we can solve this, then we can figure out how far the friend's house is from Erica's house. So I'm going to use the strategy that we learned earlier in the week where I'm going to break this 5.5 apart into two pieces. And one of those pieces is going to be the additive inverse of negative 3.3. So some number plus 3.3 and then plus negative 3.3 equals what? All right. Remember, I can make change. I think that was the analogy I used. I can go to the store, give them a $10 bill, they'll give me a 5 and 5 ones. So think of this as making change. I'm going to the store, I'm giving them a $5.5 bill, and they're going to give me a $3.3 bill. And then to figure out what this number is, just subtract these two. 5.5 minus 3.3 is what? Well, it's going to be 2.2. All right, and the whole reason I do this is to create a pair of additive inverses. I have a positive 3.3 right here, and I have a negative 3.3 right here. And we know that when you add additive inverses together, they sum to 0. So I'll go ahead and rewrite this equation. I'm going to regroup. Since I'm adding, I can group them differently. So I have 2.2 plus, and then I have my 3.3 plus my negative 3.3. And what does that equal? Well, we know that everything inside these parentheses right here is going to equal 0, right? 3 plus 3 plus negative 3.3. This is all just equal to 0. So 2.2 plus 0 is 2.2. So the distance from Erica's house to her friend's house is 2.2 miles. So let's go ahead and plug that in. Check answer. We got it. All right, I'm going to do one more question. I'm going to do number 12. All right, it says simplify the expression 120.2 plus negative 30.1. And then it has sort of this confusing last part where it says write an equivalent sum that has the form 145.2 plus a. Don't even worry about that right now. Digits loves to ask a bunch of questions in the initial prompt area, but we're going to do it one at a time. So we'll get back to this. 120.2 plus negative 30.1. That's essentially exactly the same as what we just did. The numbers are bigger, so don't let those numbers scare you. I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to go a little faster this time because I just did this, and it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same method. Just the numbers are bigger. Don't let that scare you. We're going to break this apart so that one of the two numbers is a positive 30.1. So I'm going to break this apart. I have some number plus 30.1 plus negative 30.1, and we want to figure out what that is equal to. 120.2 minus 30.1 is 90.1. And again, I don't mind if you use a calculator for that. All right, the whole reason we did this is to get a pair of additive inverses. I have positive 30.1 and I have a negative 30.1. Those add to 0, so I get 90.1 plus. Now I do my regrouping. 30.1 plus negative 30.1. Ooh, getting sloppy with my writing. Equals, all right, we know our additive inverses are going to sum to 0. So 90 plus 0.1 plus 0 is just 90.1. Okay, it says type an integer or a decimal. Well, this is a decimal, so I'm going to go ahead and type that in. Okay, all right, so that should have been review right there. The second thing they want us to do is, we know the answer is 90.1. They want us to write a new equation. They want to say 145.2 plus what? Plus some number is going to equal 90.1, right? It says an equivalent sum. So 145.2 plus something is going to equal 90.2. All right, so this number, 90.2, is smaller than 145.2. So normally we would subtract, right? I would do 145.2 minus 90.2, and that would tell me what this number is. But they specifically want us to add. Okay, they're saying it has to be in this form. So they specifically want us to add. So we need to add a negative number. Adding a negative is the same as subtracting. So we're going to need some negative number here to get to 90.2. So all we're going to do is go ahead and do 145.2. We're going to subtract 90.2 and we'll get the difference. We'll get whatever that number is, except now we're going to make it negative because we have to add it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the calculator. No, I'm not. Well, maybe it's right here. Nope, no, it's not. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this on a calculator. Again, I'm pretty pro calculator. You know, this unit is not on. It's hey, do we understand how to add positives and negatives? So I don't want you messing up just because of a decimal point or something like that. So we're going to do 145.2 minus 90.2, and I got 55, if you can see that. So subtracting 55 is the same as adding a negative 55. Okay. I just noticed that they actually don't have an answer box for this, man. I'm actually done with the question. But a lot of times they'll ask extra questions like this, sort of to provoke your thinking or get you to think. So I think the goal of this question right here was just to remind you that, hey, subtraction is the same as adding a negative. So I could do 145.2 plus a negative 55, or 145.2 minus 55, and they're both going to equal 90.2. Okay, I'm trying to get back to, there I am. Okay, hopefully you found this video helpful. Ask me a question in the comments, send me an email, or ask me in class if you have more questions.